For thousands of years, humanity has carried a haunting silence at the very core of its being. A silence not born from peace, but from absence. Something is missing. Something once known, once spoken, once alive in temples and mountains, in caves and deserts, is now buried so deeply that most will never even sense its loss. It is a sound. Not just a sound as in noise or vibration, but a primordial key, a syllable so powerful that it was said to open the doors between worlds. This is not a metaphor. Ancient civilizations did not describe it poetically, but literally. They believed that reality itself, with all its layers of matter and spirit, could be unlocked by a single frequency, by the human voice tuned to the forgotten resonance of the cosmos. Priests guarded it, mystics whispered it, shamans risked their sanity for it, and then it vanished. Why would such a sound disappear? Who would have the authority or the fear to hide something like this from humanity? History is filled with examples of knowledge deliberately erased, rewritten, locked behind closed walls of power. But this sound was different. It was not simply erased from books. It was erased from memory, from practice, from the very pattern of daily human life. All that remains are fragments, scattered chants in sacred texts, cryptic hints in the margins of forbidden books, echoes hidden inside mantras and prayers we repeat without knowing their true source. Imagine for a moment that your entire life has been spent in a locked room. You grew accustomed to the walls, you arranged your furniture, you painted the ceiling, you even prayed to the light that filters through the cracks. And then one day someone tells you, there was always a door. Not a metaphorical door, but a real one. It can be opened, but only with a sound you have never heard, a sound you were never allowed to remember. How would that change everything? This is what the ancient seers insisted. There is a sound that does not just echo in the air, but in the fabric of existence. When spoken with awareness, it does not simply vibrate. It rearranges reality. It is the key that turns flesh into spirit, silence into revelation, death into passage. And they warned us, if this sound is forgotten, humanity itself will forget what it means to cross thresholds. We would remain locked in one dimension, convinced that there is nothing beyond the walls. But history leaves traces, even when rulers try to burn the evidence. In the temples of Egypt, the priests of Amun spoke of a word of power that opened the gates of the Duat, the realm of spirit. In India, the rishis spoke of Vak, the goddess of speech, whose syllables gave birth to worlds. Among the shamans, chants were not entertainment but architecture, literally shaping the reality of their tribe. Everywhere, in every land, the echo of the lost sound lingers. Today, science speaks of vibration and frequency. It says the universe itself began with a bang, with sound. Yet for all its machines and formulas, science cannot tell us what the ancients whispered, that this sound can still be uttered, not in theory, but in practice, by a human being who remembers. The problem is you were trained not to remember. The moment you were born, your cries were silenced. As you grew, your words were shaped, standardized, trimmed to fit the language of commerce and survival. You learned to speak, but forgot to vibrate. You learned to shout, but forgot to resonate. And slowly the lost sound slipped through the cracks of your life, just as it slipped through the cracks of history. And yet, in rare moments, perhaps you have felt it. A word spoken in prayer that makes your entire body tremble. A chant in a foreign tongue that feels strangely familiar. A dream in which you hear a tone so beautiful it makes you weep, and you wake up with nothing but the memory of its echo. These are not coincidences. These are fragments, glimpses of the lost sound still trying to reach you. This is the dangerous truth. If the sound is remembered, you will no longer need anyone's permission to cross thresholds. You will not need priests or books, churches or temples. You will hold the key in your own voice, in your own breath. That is why it was hidden. Because a humanity that remembers the sound no longer bows to authority. It no longer fears death. It no longer plays the game of limitation. So the question is not whether the lost sound exists. The question is whether you will recognize it when you hear it. Will you remember the resonance in your bones, the forgotten syllable on your tongue? Or will you dismiss it as superstition, as nothing but noise? The answer is not in history books. It is inside of you. And this is where our journey begins. With a sound erased from memory, hidden from the masses, but still alive, waiting for those who dare to listen. Every tradition, no matter how far apart in geography or time, points to the same unsettling truth. The universe is not built out of matter, but out of vibration. Long before quantum physics hinted that particles are only temporary ripples in a vast field of energy, the ancients already spoke of creation not as a solid structure, but as a song. They said that behind the mountains, the oceans, the stars, there is a resonance, a tone, a pulse that holds everything together. Without vibration, there is no form. Without sound, there is no world. The story begins in silence, not the absence of noise, but the pregnant silence of potential, a silence so complete it holds within it the possibility of every tone, every word, every reality. From that silence, the first vibration emerges, a trembling, a subtle pulse, and from that trembling, worlds unfold. The Egyptians said the god Ptah created the universe through the spoken word, shaping reality with utterance. In the Hebrew tradition, creation begins with "and God said," not with movement, not with form, but with speech. The Vedic seers described as the seed of all existence, the primal vibration from which galaxies sprouted like flowers from the void. We live inside this vibration. Every atom in your body is not a thing, but a pattern of energy held together by resonance. Every cell sings, every organ hums. Your entire being is a symphony you rarely hear. And because you are immersed in it constantly, you forget it is there, like a fish forgetting water. Yet it is vibration that allows your heart to beat, your lungs to expand, your brain to transmit thought. You are not solid. You are resonance clothed in flesh. But here lies the mystery. If everything is vibration, then everything can be altered by vibration. Change the resonance, and you change the reality. The shamans of the Amazon knew this. They sang Icaros not for entertainment, but to weave new patterns of healing, to alter the resonance of plants, animals, people. The Tibetan monks intoned guttural chants not because they liked the sound, but because the vibration reshaped their consciousness, opening inner doors. Even in modern science, cymatics shows us that when sound waves pass through sand or water, they arrange matter into geometric forms, mandalas made visible by frequency. If that happens on a plate of sand, imagine what happens in the temple of your body. Think of your life as a pattern of resonance. When you speak, you are not just communicating ideas, you are broadcasting frequency. Words spoken in anger carry one vibration. Words spoken in love carry another. They do not simply pass through the air. They reorganize the invisible field around you. That is why one word can shatter a life, while another can heal a wound. This is not poetry. This is vibration. This is creation in real time. The ancients guarded this knowledge because they knew it was both sacred and dangerous. If every vibration alters reality, then the one who controls vibration controls existence. That is why temples were built with acoustics in mind, why chants were repeated endlessly, why silence itself was considered an initiation. The body of the initiate became a tuning fork, capable of resonating with higher worlds. They did not just believe in vibration, they lived inside it consciously, using it as the most direct way to commune with the divine. Modern life has drowned this awareness in noise. We are surrounded by sounds that do not elevate but enslave. Mechanical hums, digital pings, constant chatter, all of them detune the human instrument, pulling it away from its natural resonance. You can feel this when you walk into a city and your nervous system tightens, compared to standing in a forest where every sound is aligned with life. The forest does not just calm you, It retunes you. The silence of nature is not empty. It vibrates with the song of creation, and your body recognizes it. This is why the lost sound matters. It is not simply another vibration among many. It is the vibration, the one that aligns you with the architecture of the universe itself. Imagine what it means to remember not just that everything vibrates, but to find the key that unlocks the original resonance, the frequency that does not just alter one thing but reveals the structure behind all things. That is what the ancients hinted at when they spoke of a syllable, a tone, a sacred utterance that opens doors. There are moments in life when you sense this power without realizing it. The way your body responds to a piece of music that moves you to tears. The inexplicable shiver when you hear a chant in a language you do not understand. The way silence after a storm feels alive, vibrating, almost singing. These are fragments of recognition, your being remembering that vibration is not background, it is the core of reality. And yet, for all the beauty of this truth, there is a shadow. If creation is vibration, then manipulation is also vibration. Those who know how to control frequency can control minds, societies, entire civilizations. Advertising uses repeated tones and words to shape desire. Media uses vibration to amplify fear. Even the rhythm of your daily schedule, imposed by machines and clocks, is a kind of resonance that locks you into patterns not of your choosing. You are being tuned constantly, whether you are aware of it or not. The difference between slavery and freedom is not whether vibration exists, but whether you are conscious of it. The ancients sought to awaken that awareness, to teach initiates to use vibration deliberately, as a sacred act. That is why mantras were never casual. They were keys. That is why prayers were repeated. They were resonant codes. That is why the lost sound, if remembered, is so dangerous to authority, because it gives the individual the ultimate power to create consciously, to open doors no one else can close. So, when we say that sound can open portals, it is not myth. It is the recognition that vibration is the skeleton of the universe, and that certain vibrations, when spoken with full awareness, align you with dimensions that remain closed to the unconscious. The lost sound is not about superstition. It is about remembering that your voice, your breath, your very being is part of the cosmic song. And once you hear it, not just with your ears but with your soul, you will never again doubt that creation is not a thing, but a vibration. If vibration is the fabric of creation, then sound is the thread that weaves it into form. Every ancient civilization knew this, and yet they did not all speak of it in the same way. They used different words, different rituals, different stories. But if you listen carefully, beyond the languages and the centuries, you begin to hear the same melody repeating across the world, the belief that a specific sound, or set of sounds, could open doors between worlds. Not metaphors, not allegories, but living keys to invisible realms. Take Egypt. For the Egyptians, words were not human inventions, but divine forces. The god Ptah was said to have spoken the world into existence. His tongue was not flesh. It was a bridge between thought and form. In the temples, priests practiced Heka, a form of sacred speech that was not mere recitation, but activation. They believed that to speak a name with the correct vibration was to summon its essence, to bring it forth from the unseen. The hieroglyphs carved into stone were not simply writings. They were frozen echoes of sound, visual anchors for vibrations too powerful to be left drifting in the air. And deep within the rites of the dead, texts describe secret intonations that guided the soul through the duat, the unseen landscape of spirit. Without the sound, the soul was lost. With it, the gates opened. Travel east and you find India vibrating with the same truth. The Vedas declare that Vak, the goddess of speech, was not a figure of imagination, but the very creative force of the cosmos. She is the mother of mantras, the womb of resonance. The syllable Om, still chanted today, was described as the primordial vibration, the sound not of this world, but of the origin of all worlds. It was not just a word, but the essence of all words, a doorway into the eternal. And beyond Om, thousands of mantras, each considered a key, each carrying a resonance that aligned the chanter with specific deities, energies, or states of consciousness. For the rishis, sound was not decoration, it was architecture. By chanting, they built bridges between human awareness and cosmic reality. Cross oceans and mountains, and the shamans of the Americas were singing the same truth in their own language. Their icaros were not mere songs, but living currents. Each melody carried a vibration that could summon plant spirits, call healing energies, or open the path to visions. The chant was the medicine. The sound itself was the door. In the Siberian steppes, shamans beat their drums in rhythms that mirrored the heartbeat of the earth, carrying their consciousness into the realms of ancestors and spirits. The vibration of the drum was not symbolic. It was the horse that carried them into the other world. Even the Hebrew mystics spoke of the hidden names of God, composed not of arbitrary syllables but of vibrations so sacred they could not be uttered by the uninitiated. The Tetragrammaton, the unpronounceable name, was not unpronounceable because of secrecy, but because of power. To vibrate those sounds was to align with forces so immense that they could shatter or transform the soul. In the Kabbalistic tradition, the Hebrew letters themselves are vibrations frozen into symbols, each a doorway into cosmic energy. China, too, held its keys. In Taoist practice, sacred sounds known as the 6 healing sounds were used to clear the organs of stagnant energy, restoring harmony between the human and the cosmos. Each sound corresponded not to meaning, but to vibration, to a resonance that realigned body and spirit. To chant them was to attune oneself to the Tao itself. What unites these traditions is not a shared language or culture, but a shared recognition. Sound is not entertainment. It is power. The right sound, in the right state of awareness, is not simply heard, but entered. It becomes a door. And in every culture, these sounds were considered too precious to be left in the hands of the unprepared. They were passed from teacher to disciple, guarded by ritual, often hidden behind veils of secrecy. Because to open a door without guidance is dangerous. And to give the key to one who seeks only power is to invite disaster. This is why so many of these traditions wrapped their sounds in myth, in symbol, in metaphor. They told stories of gods speaking worlds into being, of mantras that birth deities, of names that cannot be spoken. But beneath the myth was always the same practical truth. Vibration is the skeleton of reality, and sound is the key to rearranging it. The lost sound is not a fantasy. It is simply one of these ancient keys that slipped from human memory. Yet memory is never fully erased. In the chants of monks, in the prayers of the faithful, in the lullabies mothers whisper to their children, fragments survive. The melody changes, the language shifts, but the resonance lingers. You may have felt it yourself, in a chant you did not understand but that made your chest vibrate, in a song that brought tears for no reason you could explain. That is the echo of the ancient sound keys. They still live, hidden not in temples or books, but in the resonance of your own being. So when we speak of Egypt, India, the shamans, the mystics, we are not cataloging history. We are listening for echoes. Because if so many cultures so far apart said the same thing, then it is not superstition. It is remembrance. They all knew. Sound opens doors. And perhaps if you listen closely enough, those doors are not locked forever. When you begin to understand that vibration is creation itself, a question arises naturally. Why is this truth not part of everyday life? Why did civilizations speak openly of sacred syllables, of chants that could open doors between worlds, while modern humanity dismisses them as superstition? The answer is uncomfortable. It is not that the knowledge was lost by accident. It was hidden. It was forbidden. The story of humanity is not only the story of progress, but also the story of control. Across empires, dynasties, and religions, the same pattern emerges. Those who hold power do not merely govern bodies, they govern perception. To control what people can see, what they can know, what they can remember, is to control their reality. And there is nothing more threatening to control than a key that opens the door beyond it. That key was sound. Imagine what it would mean if every human being carried within their breath, their throat, their very voice, a tool that could open access to higher realities. You would not need temples to tell you who the gods are. You would not need priests to mediate the invisible. You would not need empires to legislate the sacred. You would hold the portal in your own chest. Such freedom terrifies those who rely on obedience. And so, slowly, deliberately, the sound was erased. First, it was declared dangerous. Forbidden syllables, they said, words that must never be spoken aloud. Then it was hidden inside symbols, encoded in rituals so obscure that only a select few could decode them. Eventually, it was demonized, rebranded as heresy, witchcraft, superstition. Entire traditions were burned, their chants silenced, their books turned to ash. Not because they lacked truth, but because they carried too much of it. The Egyptian Heka, the sacred utterances that guided the dead, were buried under sand and stone, dismissed as myth until fragments surfaced millennia later. The Vedic mantras, meant to realign human beings with cosmic order, were reduced to ritual repetition, their inner meaning stripped away. The shaman's icaros, which once carried the power to shape visions, were suppressed by colonizers who feared the knowledge of plants and spirits. The Hebrew names of God, once vibrated in secrecy to align with divine force, were forbidden to the masses, spoken only by initiates, until even they forgot the resonance. Over and over, the story repeats. Sound was not forgotten by humanity. It was forbidden by those who feared what it would unleash. This is why you were taught to see language as utility rather than power. You were trained to think of speech as communication only, a way of passing information, rather than a way of shaping reality. The very education system that drilled words into your mind also emptied them of resonance. The words you speak every day are stripped of their vibration, leaving you fluent but powerless, and yet traces remain. Have you noticed how certain chants are still feared? How certain sounds provoke unease even today? Why is it that the syllable Om, spoken by billions, still carries a charge that science cannot explain? Why is it that even in secular societies, the idea of a forbidden word carries a kind of magnetic power? It is because the memory of the lost sound cannot be fully erased. But there is a deeper reason why the sound was hidden. The ancients understood that vibration is not neutral. It is potent, and like all power, it can heal or it can destroy. A frequency that opens a door can also break what lies on the other side. The same sound that elevates one soul could unbalance another who is not prepared. Imagine a child handed the key to a nuclear reactor. The danger is not in the key, but in the unpreparedness of the hand that holds it. For this reason, secrecy was not always malicious. It was sometimes protective. The sound was kept for initiates who had undergone purification, who had learned discipline, who had been tested. But secrecy is a double-edged sword. What begins as protection often becomes possession. Priests and rulers who once guarded the sound for safety began to guard it for power. Access became privilege. Initiation became hierarchy. And slowly, the very knowledge that was meant to free humanity was chained. You feel this chain even now. You feel it when you sense that your voice has more power than you were taught. You feel it when music moves you more deeply than logic ever could. You feel it when silence vibrates louder than words. Deep down, you know, the sound was not lost. It was hidden. It was forbidden. And the question that lingers is the same one whispered across centuries. Who benefits from your forgetting? Who gains when you believe that words are hollow, that your voice is empty, that vibration is harmless? The answer is always the same: those who profit from your silence. But here lies the paradox. No matter how many times it was burned, buried, or banned, the sound has survived. Because the sound is not only outside, it is inside. No council can erase what lives in your breath. No empire can forbid the resonance in your bones. No law can silence the vibration that animates your heart. The forbidden knowledge is this: you do not need permission. You do not need a temple. You do not need a master. You are the temple. You are the instrument. And if you learn to remember, if you dare to listen, the lost sound can still pass through your lips. And when it does, no authority, no hierarchy, no power on earth can stop the door from opening. If we accept that sound has the power to create, to destroy, to shape reality itself, then a question arises that burns more fiercely than all the others. How? How does a simple vibration, carried by air and voice, open doors between worlds? How can something as fleeting as a syllable alter something as vast as existence? The answer is hidden in the structure of reality itself. Every dimension, every layer of being, is not separated by distance, but by frequency. Just as a radio can tune to one station or another by shifting vibration, consciousness tunes into worlds by resonance. You are not stuck in this reality by walls or chains, but by frequency. The lost sound is said to work because it resonates not with the surface of matter, but with the very frequency of transition, the threshold itself. Imagine a tuning fork. Strike it, and it vibrates at a particular pitch. Place another tuning fork tuned to the same frequency nearby, and it too will begin to vibrate, without being touched. This is resonance. The ancients understood that consciousness functions in the same way. Speak a sound aligned with a higher frequency, and your entire being begins to vibrate with it. You are no longer just standing in one reality. You are resonating with another. The door opens not because you step through it, but because you become it. This is why the lost sound was considered dangerous. It is not symbolic, it is mechanical, energetic, real. When pronounced correctly in the right state of awareness, it shifts the resonance of your body, your mind, your soul. Your cells respond, your nervous system recalibrates, your perception stretches. Suddenly, the room you are in is no longer sealed. Dimensions bleed through. What was invisible becomes visible. What was silent begins to speak. The mechanics are both simple and subtle. Every sound has three parts: the breath that carries it, the vibration that shapes it, and the awareness that directs it. Without breath, there is no life in the sound. Without vibration, there is no resonance. Without awareness, it is empty noise. But when all three align, the sound becomes a key. Breath is the wind, vibration is the shape, awareness is the hand that turns the lock. This is why so many traditions emphasize preparation. To utter the sound without awareness is like striking a key without a door. It produces vibration, but nothing opens. The initiate was taught to breathe deeply, to purify the body, to calm the mind. Only then, when the vessel was clear, could the syllable be spoken with power. It was never about volume or force. It was about resonance. A whisper with full awareness could shake the stars, while a shout without presence did nothing. Science, though unwilling to admit it openly, hints at this truth. Quantum physics suggests that reality is not a fixed stage, but a field of probabilities. And what determines which probabilities unfold is resonance. Brainwave studies show that sound can shift consciousness from ordinary waking states into altered dimensions of awareness. Sound therapy demonstrates that certain frequencies can heal the body by restoring coherence to its vibrations. All of these are modern echoes of what the ancients already knew. Sound is the bridge between worlds because vibration is the bridge between states of being. But there is something even deeper. The mechanics of the sound are not limited to outer resonance. They touch the inner architecture of the soul. Hidden within you are energy centers, what many call chakras, that function like resonant chambers. Each vibrates at its own frequency. Each responds to certain tones. When the lost sound is spoken, it is said to align these centers simultaneously. creating a harmony that lifts consciousness out of the ordinary and into the liminal. In that harmony, the doorway appears. You may have glimpsed this without realizing it. A word that makes your chest vibrate and suddenly you feel lighter. A chant that fills your skull with resonance and suddenly your thoughts expand. A silence after sound so deep it feels as if you are standing in another world. These are the mechanics at work, not superstition, not metaphor, but the direct effect of vibration on the architecture of your being. This is also why the sound was hidden. Because when you know how it works, when you understand that it is not myth but mechanism, the illusion of power crumbles. No one can monopolize a vibration. No one can own the resonance of your breath. The key to the gate is not in books or temples. It is in your own voice. The danger is not that the sound is unreal, but that it is real, and that anyone, anywhere, can remember it. The gate does not open in the sky. It opens in perception. It opens in the subtle shift when your body hums in harmony with a tone not of this world. It opens in the silence after the last syllable fades, when you realize the room around you has changed, though nothing has moved. It opens in the realization that death itself is not a wall but a resonance, and that sound is the key that allows passage. So how does the sound open the gate? By reminding you that there was never a gate at all, only resonance, only frequency, only the great song within which you are not a listener but a singer. And the moment you sing with awareness, the universe answers. Throughout history, whispers have persisted about a single sound, a syllable so ancient and so powerful that it was said to hold the key to every threshold. Unlike mantras with many repetitions, unlike chants that weave long streams of vibration, this one was simple. One sound, one utterance, one resonance capable of aligning human consciousness with the architecture of creation itself. Some call it a myth, others swear it was real. And the deeper you look, the more the boundary between legend and truth begins to blur. The Egyptians hinted at it in their secret rites. In fragments of their funerary texts, scholars find references not to lengthy spells, but to singular utterances, words of power that open the way. The priest would stand at the threshold of the tomb, pronounce the syllable, and the soul was said to pass unhindered into the duat. No explanation, no elaboration, only a sound that moved reality itself. In India, the Vedic seers spoke of the bija mantras, the seed sounds. Unlike longer mantras that carry layers of meaning, the bija are single syllables, each resonating with a specific force of the cosmos. Om, Hrim, Shrim, Krim. Each one a key, simple yet immense. Among them, Om was called the mother of all sounds, the primordial syllable. Some traditions go further, claiming that even Om is but an echo of a deeper, more original sound, one that has no written form, one that cannot be reduced to letters. The true lost syllable. Among the Hebrews, mystics hinted at the Shem HaMeforash, the hidden name of God composed of vibrations so sacred that it could never be uttered by the uninitiated. They spoke of a singular vibration, a combination so pure that to speak it aloud was to align the human soul with divine essence itself. Whether this name was a syllable or a sequence, no one can say, but the echoes of the forbidden sound linger in their secrecy. Shamanic traditions too echo the theme. Some Amazonian healers spoke of a mother note hidden inside all songs, the tone that calls the spirits before any other chant begins. They would find it not through books but through silence, through communion with plants, through dreams where the sound itself would visit them. The syllable would arrive sometimes as a whisper, sometimes as a roar, but always as the key, the one that opened the path. Why then do so many traditions across the world hint at a single sound? If it were myth, why would it appear in such diverse places, under different names and different languages carrying the same claim? Perhaps because myths themselves are not fabrications, but containers. They hold fragments of memory. And when the same myth repeats across continents, it is not coincidence. It is remembrance echoing across time. Skeptics will say, if such a sound existed, where is it now? Why do we not know it? Why can it not be proven? But that is the very essence of its nature. The lost syllable was never meant to be written, never meant to be preserved in ink. It was breath, vibration, living resonance. The moment it is trapped in symbols, it is already diminished. The only place it can live is in voice, in practice, in direct transmission. And when those transmissions were broken, when initiates were silenced, when temples were destroyed, the syllable slipped back into the silence from which it came. But does that mean it is gone? Not necessarily. Some traditions say the sound cannot be lost because it is woven into the fabric of your being. Your cells hum with it. Your heartbeat echoes it. Your breath carries fragments of it every time you exhale. You cannot destroy what is fundamental to existence. You can only forget. And forgetting is not the same as erasing. What is forgotten can be remembered. Perhaps you have heard it in dreams. Perhaps you have felt it in meditation. A sound not spoken aloud but vibrating in the marrow of your bones, resonating in the silence of your mind. Perhaps you have encountered it in a wordless moment of awe where reality itself seems to hum. These are not fantasies. They are echoes of the syllable calling you back. So, is the lost syllable myth or reality? The answer depends not on history, but on you. If you look for proof in books, you will find fragments and contradictions. If you look for it in your own resonance, in the hidden chambers of your being, you may discover that the syllable was never lost at all. It waits for you, not in libraries, but in silence, not in the voices of others, but in your own. The myth is real because it has power. The reality is hidden because it has danger, and between the two lies the mystery. A single sound that can open doors, dissolve illusions, and remind you that you are not a prisoner in this world. You are a participant in its song. To call it myth or reality misses the point. The only true question is, will you hear it? If the lost sound is real, if vibration is the key to creation, then the question becomes even more intimate. Where is this sound meant to live? The answer is disarmingly simple. It is meant to live in you, in your chest, in your breath, in the resonance chambers of your body. The human voice is not just a tool for communication. It is the original portal. Think for a moment about what happens when you speak. Air rises from your lungs, shaped by the diaphragm. It passes through the vocal cords where vibration is born. That vibration travels into your throat, your mouth, your tongue, your lips, shaping itself into tones, words, language. But beneath the mechanics of anatomy lies a deeper truth. Every syllable you speak is a fusion of breath, vibration, and intention. This is the trinity of creation. Breath is spirit. Vibration is matter. Intention is consciousness. Every time you speak, you bring those three together, and the universe responds. The ancients never saw the voice as casual. They revered it as divine technology. In Egypt, sacred chants were taught not only for ritual but for healing, because the resonance of the priest's voice could shift the energy of a temple. In India, the rishis knew that mantras only worked when spoken aloud, when the body itself became the instrument of vibration. In the Christian tradition, the word was not written first, it was spoken. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Speech was not human invention, it was divine incarnation. The human voice carries something unique. It is alive. Instruments can imitate tones, but only the human voice carries the resonance of breath and blood, the direct imprint of consciousness. When you sing, chant, or speak with awareness, you are not simply creating sound waves, you are extending your own being into the field of reality. The voice is your bridge between inner and outer worlds. This is why silence and speech were always paired in initiation. The initiate was taught when to be silent, because silence tunes the instrument, and when to speak, because the uttered sound was the key. To speak carelessly was to waste power. To speak with awareness was to open portals. Modern science provides subtle confirmation of this. The voice carries overtones, layers of frequency beyond what the ear hears consciously. These overtones resonate with the body, with the environment, with subtle fields. When monks chant in deep guttural tones, it is not the audible note alone that matters, but the cascading layers of resonance that fill the space, creating an atmosphere that shifts consciousness. Your voice, too, carries such layers. You may think you are only saying words, but your entire being is vibrating into the world. And here is the hidden secret. The body itself was designed as a sacred instrument. Your chest is a resonant chamber. Your skull amplifies vibration. Your bones conduct sound. Even your blood carries resonance. You are a walking cathedral, and your voice is its organ. When used unconsciously, it speaks idle words. When used consciously, it opens the Holy of Holies. Have you noticed how certain words leave you shaking while others leave you empty? How certain tones make you want to cry, or laugh, or fall into silence? This is not random. It is resonance. Your voice has the power to align your nervous system, to shift the patterns of your thought, to call energies into your space. That is why in every tradition, prayer was not silent reading, but spoken vibration. Words were never meant to stay in the head. They were meant to be breathed into the world, shaping it. This also reveals why the sound was hidden, because if people remembered that their own voice is a portal, they would never again be slaves. They would never again be convinced that power resides outside of them. They would recognize that with every breath, every syllable, they carry the key to transformation. What authority could stand against such a people? And yet, this truth has not disappeared completely. You see it in the remnants of chanting traditions. You feel it in the way a choir in a cathedral moves even the most skeptical heart. You hear it in the lullaby of a mother, soothing a child not with meaning but with resonance. You hear it in your own voice, trembling when you speak the truth, because truth always carries a deeper vibration. The portal is not outside of you. It is your voice. And when you remember this, you will no longer dismiss your speech as ordinary. You will understand that every word is a choice of resonance, every syllable a vibration that ripples into creation. You will understand why the ancients guarded the lost sound so fiercely, not because it was theirs to control, but because it was always yours to remember. The silence of the ages has tried to bury this. But silence cannot erase vibration. It can only delay its recognition. And when you choose to speak, not with noise, not with chatter, but with presence, you become the doorway. The gate opens, not in the sky, not in distant temples, but in the resonance of your own voice. So the next time you speak, ask yourself, what portal am I opening? Because every sound is a key and your voice is the hand that turns it. Every ancient school of wisdom agreed on something that seems paradoxical. If sound holds the power to open worlds, silence holds the power to guard them. The initiate's path was never just about learning the secret words, the sacred syllables, or the chants that shift reality. It was equally about learning when not to speak. Because to wield sound without silence is to hold a sword without a sheath, a flame without a vessel. The balance of power has always been when to speak, when to remain silent. Imagine a disciple entering a temple in Egypt, India, or Greece. They expected to be taught words of power, the chants that gods themselves once used. But before any syllable was given, the master would impose silence. Days of silence, weeks of silence, sometimes years. Why? Because silence was not absence. Silence was training. It was resonance in its most subtle form. Only when the initiate had mastered silence, had learned to listen, to feel vibration without uttering it, could they be trusted with the syllables that open doors. Silence is not emptiness. It is preparation. It is the tuning of the instrument before the performance. If the human voice is a portal, then silence is the alignment of that portal. the cleansing of its channels. A voice that has not known silence is like a river that has never rested, muddy, turbulent, scattered. But a voice that emerges from silence carries clarity, precision, and power. The ancients also knew another danger. Words lose their force when they are thrown carelessly into the world. Every utterance shapes reality, and careless speech scatters power into fragments. The initiate was taught to guard their words as treasure, to speak only when intention was aligned, when awareness was present. Because one word spoken in resonance is worth more than 1,000 uttered in distraction. This is why secrecy surrounded the lost sound. Not because it was selfishly hoarded, but because it could not survive in chatter. A sacred syllable drowned in noise becomes another echo in the market of voices. To preserve its potency, it was veiled in silence. The greatest initiates carried it not on their tongues but in their hearts, waiting for the moment when silence itself demanded speech. Modern society has forgotten this law. We are immersed in constant noise, conversations, notifications, endless words thrown into the air without resonance. We speak to fill silence, afraid of what it might reveal. But the initiate knew the opposite. Silence reveals everything. Silence is the womb from which true sound is born. Without it, sound is sterile. With it, sound is fertile, creative, transformative. Have you noticed how certain words strike you deeply when spoken after a long pause? How silence before speech gives the words weight, as if they carry more reality? That is the ancient law at work. The initiate was taught not only syllables, but timing. Not only how to pronounce, but when. The right word at the wrong moment is powerless. The right word at the right moment is a key. There is also a more subtle reason. Silence trains perception. In silence, you begin to hear vibrations otherwise hidden. The hum of your own body, the pulse of the earth, the subtle ringing of existence itself. Only in silence can you begin to recognize the resonance that underlies all things. And once you recognize it, when you finally speak, your voice aligns with it. You are no longer speaking alone, you are speaking with the universe. The paradox is simple but profound. The initiate was given two teachings. First, your voice is a portal. Second, your silence is its guardian. Use one without the other and the path collapses. But use them together, and you walk the razor's edge of creation with mastery. This is why the lost sound, if remembered, is not for everyone. Not because it is elitist, but because not everyone is ready to hold silence. To speak the syllable without silence is to light a fire in a storm. But to speak it from the depths of silence is to light a flame that cannot be extinguished. So the question is not only, what is the lost sound? The question is, are you silent enough to hear it? Are you silent enough to hold it? Are you silent enough to let it vibrate in you before you release it? The initiate's secret was never just about a word. It was about the womb from which the word is born, and that womb is silence. In our age of constant noise, this secret is more relevant than ever. To rediscover the lost sound, you must also rediscover the lost silence. The two are inseparable, and when you do, you will understand why the ancients guarded their words so carefully. Because the greatest power is not in speaking endlessly, it is in knowing the one moment, the one breath, the one syllable worth speaking. And when it is spoken, the gate opens. For all the myths of temples and chants, for all the stories of God speaking worlds into existence, the ultimate revelation is both simpler and more radical. The true portal has never been outside of you. Not in the deserts of Egypt, not in the mountains of India, not in the hidden chambers of secret orders. The real portal is within you. This is the truth that terrifies empires, because once you grasp it, every external authority begins to collapse. If the key is inside of you, no ruler, no priest, no system can hold it from you. The sound they tried to erase was never a separate artifact to be stolen. It is woven into your very being. The syllables, the chants, the vibrations, They are not instructions for something foreign. They are reminders of what you already are. Your body is not only flesh, it is architecture. Your bones resonate like the columns of a cathedral. Your chest is a chamber of echoes. Your skull vibrates like the dome of a temple. Your very breath is the wind that animates the sacred flame. You walk not in a prison of matter, but in a living sanctuary. Every cell sings, every organ hums, and your voice is the bell tower. The portal is here, now, in the resonance of your being. The ancients hinted at this in every culture. The yogis taught that the chakras are not metaphors, but inner doors, each vibrating at its own frequency, each opening into higher states of perception. The Egyptians designed temples whose architecture mirrored the body, each hall corresponding to an organ, each chamber a resonance of the human frame. The Kabbalists spoke of the tree of life not as an abstract map, but as a reflection of the human form, each sephira an energy center vibrating within. Over and over, the teaching was the same. You are the temple, you are the instrument, you are the portal. But here is the paradox. Because the portal is within, most people never look for it. We search outside, for teachers, for rituals, for artifacts, never realizing that the doorway has always been behind our own breath. And even when we stumble upon it, we doubt it. How could something so vast be so intimate? How could the key to the cosmos be hidden in the silence of our own chest? This doubt is the last veil. The moment you pierce it, the portal reveals itself. What does it mean to discover the portal within? It means you begin to feel vibration not as theory, but as reality. You sit in silence and suddenly you sense your body humming. You chant, and the resonance fills not just the room but your entire field of perception. You breathe, and your breath itself feels like a doorway, each inhale drawing in the cosmos, each exhale opening the gate wider. Slowly, you realize you have always been in communion. You have always been standing in the threshold. The portal does not need to be built. It only needs to be remembered. This inner portal is why sound is so powerful. When you chant, when you speak with awareness, when you sing with intention, you are not creating power from nothing. You are unlocking what is already there. The vibration resonates with the architecture of your body, aligning your inner chambers, opening doors that were never truly closed. You discover that you are not trying to reach the divine. You are the divine remembering itself. This truth has been hidden not because it is complex, but because it is too simple. Authorities cannot monetize it. Religions cannot monopolize it. Systems cannot control it, because it does not require temples of stone, only the temple of flesh. It does not require rituals carved in books, only the ritual of breath. It does not require intermediaries, only your willingness to listen. Perhaps you have felt this portal before, a moment when music seemed to dissolve the walls of your room. A prayer that carried you into silence so deep it felt infinite. A single breath in meditation where you felt both body and spirit expand beyond themselves. These were not accidents. These were moments when the inner portal flickered open, reminding you of what you carry. And here lies the greatest secret. Death itself is only a portal because the inner portal exists. The passage at the end of life is not an external gate you must find. It is the natural expansion of the portal already inside you. The lost sound was said to open doors between worlds because it activated the resonance of this portal while you are still alive. It allowed initiates to cross consciously, to taste eternity before death, to prove that the gate is not in the sky, but in the soul. The real portal is not a mystery to be solved. It is an intimacy to be remembered. It is as close as your next breath, as simple as your next word, as eternal as the vibration in your heart. And once you know this, once you feel it, once you remember, you will never again look outside for what was always within. We began with a mystery, a whisper from the past, that there is a sound so powerful it can open doors between worlds. We traced its echoes across temples and deserts, across chants and scriptures, across the forgotten silences of history. We uncovered why it was hidden, how it works, and where it lives. And after all the layers of myth, secrecy, and fear, the truth stands in the simplest, most intimate form. The portal is within you, and the sound was never truly lost. It was waiting. The danger of such a revelation is not that it overwhelms you, it is that it seems too ordinary. How could something as simple as a breath, as fleeting as a syllable, hold the key to eternity? But this is the paradox the ancients understood. The infinite hides itself in the finite, the eternal hides itself in the fleeting, the divine hides itself in you. That is why you doubt, and that is why remembering feels so radical. The lost sound is not a word to be memorized. It is a resonance to be recognized. It is not outside of you, written in a book or carved in stone. It is the hum in your bones, the vibration in your breath, the silence between your words. To say it once, consciously, with breath, vibration, and awareness aligned, is to awaken a memory older than time. It is to realize that you were never locked out of the temple. You are the temple, and this is the invitation. Not to chase the sound in ancient ruins or secret orders, but to listen here and now. To become silent enough to hear the hum of your own being. To become courageous enough to utter with awareness. To speak not as chatter, but as creation. To recognize that every time you speak with intention, every time you chant, every time you sing from the core of your being, you are stepping into the mystery. You are not waiting for the portal. You are the portal. What happens when you remember this? Fear dissolves. Death loses its grip. Authority crumbles. Because no one can take from you what is woven into your breath. You carry the key everywhere you go. You carry it when you wake, when you speak, when you dream. And once you remember, no power on earth can make you forget again. So, is the lost sound myth or reality? The truth is both simpler and more profound. It is the reality hidden in myth, the myth that carries reality. It is the syllable you have been speaking unconsciously your whole life, waiting for the moment you finally hear it. That moment can be now. Say this once, not as repetition, not as ritual, but as remembrance. Say it with your whole being, not your lips alone. Say it with the silence behind it, with the breath beneath it, with the awareness that turns vibration into creation. And when you do, you will not just open a door. You will remember that there was never a door to begin with. Only resonance, only song, only the infinite vibrating through the finite. This is the secret they tried to erase. This is the knowledge they buried in ashes and shadows. This is the power they feared. And this is the gift waiting for you in every moment. The recognition that you are not separate from the divine voice of creation. You are its echo. You are its syllable. You are its living sound. Remember this. Remember who you are. And if this journey has awakened something in you, if you felt the resonance stirring in your chest, then do not let it fade back into silence. Carry it with you. Live it. And share this remembrance with others, so that more voices awaken, so that the great song can rise again. Because one voice may open a doorway, but many voices together can shift the world. So listen deeply, speak consciously, and never forget. The lost sound was never lost. It was always inside you, waiting to be heard once more.